You know the vibes. Welcome back to another episode of the Hoop Genius podcast brought to you by NBA 2K23. Today we got a good one. I am your host, Moments, here alongside me as always, the one, the only, Mr. BJ Armstrong.
Real name, no gimmicks. Bo, we got a great one today. We got a great one.
Man. Come on. And you know the best part about today's show? The best part about today's show is yesterday we didn't get a chance to interact with any of you guys. So today I'm dedicating the entire show to questions that you guys, the listeners, have sent in to our Discord server. If you want your questions answered, make sure you join the Discord server. There's a link on my Twitter somewhere. I'll post it again for you so you can get involved and ask your questions because we're going to go straight in. The first question comes in from Mr. Chris Rose, who I believe is a Memphis fan, unless I'm mistaken. So his question is about the Grizzlies. He says, the next time you guys do questions, how best do Taylor Jenkins and the Grizzlies organization control/rebuild the culture in Memphis? From all the Ja stuff to the Dylan Brooks incidents, like the thing with Donovan Mitchell, it feels like this chip on the shoulder, forgive the term, bad boy culture is on the cusp of turning very toxic. Now, BJ, I know you like to keep it on the court. You remind me all the time. But this off-court stuff is starting to spill onto the court. For example, Dylan Brooks missed the last game for being suspended for too many technical fouls. Ja Morant missed the last game as he's spending some time away for the team, given his recent incidents that are still under investigation. And we'll talk about those more once we have some more clarity in the situation. But you're watching a team now with two guys missing time for, things that aren't actually basketball. So what do you think about the culture in Memphis? Are they in danger of letting such a promising organization, because they've got an all-star, superstar talent at the point guard position? They've got Desmond Bane, who, when he was healthy, is an elite three-point shooter and a great two guard. They've got Jaren Jackson Jr., Defensive Player of the Year candidate. They've got Steven Adams, who is probably the most experienced player on the roster, very solid in his role. He knows how to play his role perfectly. And they've got a bunch of other guys that can come in and do things. But all of that could be jeopardized by the things that happen outside of the hardwood floor. So my question to you is, how do they prevent things from going pear-shaped?
Well, Mo, this team has been portrayed in the media over the last year or so. They've been the darling of the NBA.
ESPN did a whole special last year. They went to Memphis and did a whole 24 hours of programming about the Grizzlies.
They've had a lot of media attention, deservingly so. This team has played very well. I think by all accounts, they are ahead of schedule. They've drafted really well. They've drafted incredibly well. It seems like every move they've made, they've come out, they've played, they've developed their players. Taylor Jenkins is a incredible young coach. They've done everything right. Suddenly now, over the last 2 or 3 weeks, things have been coming now off the court. Okay. And, things happen. All right. Which is fine. Now they're going to have to deal with this, because now, these guys, these young guys, who are suddenly Ja Morants and Dylan Brooks and all of these young players, Desmond Bane, now all of a sudden you got to start making financial commitments to these young players. And with that financial commitment, now we start getting into the teeth, or the heart of what professional basketball is all about, right? Mm-hmm. So what we know they've done, the basketball business, talking about talent.
Yeah.
We talk about this team and what's going on. One thing, Mo, I will say this team has an edge to it, right? They live on the edge, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And Mo, we have to say this in full transparency. You need an edge to win in this league.
Absolutely.
And they have an edge. Now, Mo, it appears now, but that's the basketball business. Now let's talk about the business of basketball. Mm-hmm. With the business comes now an enormous responsibility, not only on the court, because on the court, these guys are fine. When they do play, hey, they compete, they're entertaining, they're talking trash, they're doing all of the things, that you do when you're out there playing. But suddenly now, Mo, it appears to be, again, all of these things are allegedly. I don't know I don't know the facts of the case or anything. Now, suddenly now it's affecting the business of basketball. Now, this is what we're talking about. Okay. So now let's get to that. You know, when you start, in a relationship, Mo, there's one thing that is absolutely necessary in every relationship you have. We happen to be talking about basketball, whether you're in a personal relationship, a relationship with a mentor, a relationship with your coach. The foundation of every relationship is trust.
Yeah.
Right now, Mo, these guys have found a way not to be on the floor for their team, right? I found nothing in my life, Mo, nothing in my life that has been more enjoyable to be a part of a team. Okay. And I'm 55 and I can say that, I love my family, my kids, my parents, and all these things, but I found nothing in my life that has been more fulfilling than being part of a team. And suddenly now these young men, whether this has happened before, but certainly they've come together as a group. They have a single thought and they are a team, and suddenly now Ja Morant, their leader, is not available. Dylan Brooks now is not available. What's the one kid's name? He's got an injury.
Brandon Clark. And I think that's going to be huge in the playoffs because
Brandon Clark,
Jaren Jackson Jr. can't stay out of foul trouble. Just to quickly jump in, Jaren Jackson Jr. can't stay out of foul trouble. Now, Brandon Clark is one of the best backup big men in the entire NBA. So him not being there is going to be a huge loss, especially when it comes to offensive rebounding, which is a staple of the Grizzlies' scoring abilities, because we all know they struggle in the half court. So him not being available for the rest of the season, in particular the playoffs, is going to hurt them. So we're going to have to see if Xavier Tillman can step up and do some damage. But continue.
Yeah. So they now they have something. Now they have adversity. Now they have adversity with this group. That's a fact. Okay. Some of it's off the court. As you and I know, Mo, and all of our listeners know, and all of our viewers know, injuries are a part of the game. Steven Adams is out, who's probably, if not the oldest guy, one of the oldest guys on the team.
He's only 29 and he's the oldest guy on their roster, which makes me think a lot of these off-court things could be prevented by having some veterans on that roster and in that mix.
Yeah, and the greatest teacher, Mo, as you know, I can't ever forget when I was 20 years old, Mo. I can't ever forget that. That's the one thing as you age, Mo, you can't ever forget. The greatest teacher is experience. Okay. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you back in the day. No, Mo, I was 23. So and I'm not condoning anything. I'm just saying I get it. The greatest experience. I have a 22-year-old son. And I have to remind myself all the time, he's 22 and he's learning and she's learning and we figure it out. But because our foundation is built on trust, it's always coming from a place of love. So you say, okay, now what can the Memphis Grizzlies do? Mo, you've heard me say this off air. Not many times I say it on air, but because we are in this situation, Mo, you have to be able to function in any environment, in a dysfunctional environment. Now, right now, Mo, this is a little dysfunctional. Whether right, wrong, or whatever, when the facts come out, this isn't something that because on the outside looking in, you're going, okay, what's going on here? Now it's time for the leaders to step up, right? Ownership, the executives, the coaches, and the leaders within the group are going to have to come together and they're going to have to figure this one out. Things are going to happen. Mo, I've never been on a team where there wasn't something going on. Sometimes it hits the media. Sometimes, Mo, it doesn't.
You got to take care of that in the house.
But it's got to be taken care of, okay? And they have to take care of the group, because if you don't take care of it, Mo, it can fracture the group. And this is clearly this team here. They found chemistry with each other. That's the clear cut.
Everyone asks what the Grizzlies need to contend, and my answer is always just time. Like, they've got all the pieces there, and it's just time of playing together and more experience.
Now
they'll get that.
But if it doesn't figure itself out, Mo, this will be one of the great stories where you say coulda, woulda, shoulda. All right. So you ask, what can they do? Mo, the greatest lesson I've learned on being a part of a team, right? Everyone wants a leader, right? Everyone say, well, this person is the leader. collective leadership mode is the one thing that we don't talk enough about. Collective leadership, right? Just because the best player is on the team doesn't necessarily mean that they are the leader of a group. Okay. And that's the one thing that I've learned over my experiences, especially at the professional ranks, is that if you're going to have a good team, you got to have collective leadership. In my area, it was 12 guys. This area was 15. The 15th guy has just as much as responsibility as the best guy, because if one guy fails in their leadership and what they bring to the group, the whole thing crumbles. Mm-hmm. You go, well, how could that be? That's how it is, Mo, right? If the 15th guy is not playing his part or playing his role, this thing will come down. So I will say this. How can they correct this? And I'm going to give the Memphis Grizzlies and anyone who's a part of a team, whether it's in the office or wherever, if you're part of a group, Mo, one of the things you always look for is you look for the following. It is a true gift, Mo, when you find a person that is going to tell you the truth. It's a gift.
Facts.
Mo, I don't care who that person is. It's a gift. It's a gift to you individually. It's a gift to the collective group, because one person telling the group the truth has the power to change the dynamics of a group. And let me tell you something about power, Mo, true power. True power doesn't panic. True power doesn't panic, especially when it's a collective effort. And wherever that comes from with this group, Mo, I hope it happens for this group, because every team has a different challenge. Now this group has a different challenge ahead of them that's different than, the Orlando Magic's challenge. It was different than the LA Lakers challenge, which is different than the Utah Jazz. This group has a challenge. But Mo, I hope that someone, I don't care who it is, that will give this group the truth. Because if they get the truth and the truth enters into their locker room, into their group, or into their meeting, they have a chance, Mo. I've never been on a team where it's been perfect. I've never been on a team where there's been major problems. And when I say major problems, Mo, major problems, okay? Sometimes you heard about the problem, and in this case, it's out in the open now. Sometimes, Mo, these problems never get out. But let me tell you something. Every group is challenged with something. So I would hope, Mo, that they have the courage as an organization, as a team, as individuals to confront themselves. Because let me tell you something. On the court, that's all I know. That's all I can see. That's all you and I can see. This team has a chance to do something. And I would hope that they would learn from whatever's going on. I would hope that someone collectively, someone individually, whatever needs, that will come in there and that comes to them, and then they could sort it out and they could move on. Because, Mo, every group has to face this. And you would hope that no one gets hurt, Mo. And what I've heard, clearly, that's another discussion. But I'm not going to address that because I don't know. And I'll let the people who are experts in that handle that. But I would hope that whatever is going on that's being reported, that happens, because every team, Mo, has to address this situation the same exact way. And that takes courage to do it, because a little problem, Mo, has the potential to mess up a whole team.
Yep.
And this problem right here, Mo, because if they don't figure this out, you and I will be saying years from now, man, they had a chance to get it done, and da 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 da. And hopefully we'll say it didn't. And it's an entirely different scenario, right? I'm not comparing one situation to the other. But I remember you and I having this conversation early in the season. I mean, we had it in preseason this year with the Golden State Warriors.
Mm-hmm. After the Draymond Green and Jordan Poole.
Yeah, I mean, Mo, just based on what we saw, whatever things happen, right? You know what I mean? I'm not comparing this situation to that situation. But what I'm saying is, when a problem happens with a group, it has to be addressed. So whoever that is, the leadership has to rise to the occasion and try to figure it out. And you try to get the truth into the room, and then hopefully you can, move on and learn from it.
Well, hopefully they do figure it out, because they have so much potential as a group, and let's hope that they can mature a little bit and get to it. But the next question comes in from another member of our Discord as I scroll up to try and find it, because it's about a veteran in this league who provides great leadership to his team. And Mandar is asking, do you think Damian Lillard is the clear number 2 best shooter in the league after Steph? Does anyone else currently have a claim to the number 2 spot? Because I think it's a unanimous decision that Steph Curry is the greatest shooter in the NBA right now, if not potentially of all time. But who's your top 3 in order in terms of shooters of the basketball?
And that's a I've never really thought about it,
because it's not just catch and shoot; it's shooting off the dribble as well. Because that's what makes Steph the best. Not only can he pull up and shoot, he plays off the ball enough as well to get to his spots, catch and release. Dame plays primarily with the ball in his hands. Klay Thompson, on the other hand, is a catch and shoot kind of guy most of the time. So there's a bunch of great shooters. There's guys like Luke Kennard, for example, who just shoots at a ridiculously high percentage. But I wouldn't put him in the same caliber as a Dame or a Steph Curry or a Klay Thompson. However, stats-wise, he's up there with them. But who do you have up there, BJ Armstrong, in terms of the best shooters in the NBA?
Well, I'm going to revert back to what I've learned over my career. There's different types of shooters, right? So I'll take myself as an example. There are 3 types of shooters, right? And this is how I learned how to shoot. I had a coach tell me this once. He said, "Son, there are 3 types of shooters, and I'm going to give you the option to figure out which one you are." He says, "First, there are some guys who can create shots. Some guys, So, for example, the late Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan,
Kevin Durant,
George Gervin, Kevin Durant. Those guys can just create shots. There's nothing there, Mo. Jason Tatum. They can just create a shot. Okay. Then there are guys," he said, the second type of shooter is those guys who make open shots. He didn't say shoot open shots. He said they make open shots. Okay. Reggie Miller, Ray Allen, Chris Mullin, Steve Kerr. Those guys.
I think Ray could get a shot too in his peak, but that's
he could. But he's not in the category of Kobe Bryant, though.
No.
We're talking about the best of the best. You said the best.
Okay.
There's some guys who, Larry Bird was, there's some guys. Okay.
Don't tell JJ.
Okay. There's some guys that they make open shots. And then the third shooter are guys who can't shoot.
we don't need to name him.
Okay. We don't need to name these players, but there's a reason they are open. Because no, Mo, as a professional, who you're going to leave open. When I'm playing against for instance, did you watch the Dallas game? Which I know you did, the Dallas Phoenix.
Yep.
There was a reason those guys were open in the corner. And when those guys who are open, for whatever the reason may be, wink, wink, and when they make those shots, suddenly now you go, we have no chance to guard Kevin Durant or Devin Booker with 2-3 guys if these guys are making shots. Yeah. Because now that puts so much pressure on you to play flawless basketball, meaning you got to shoot over 70% from 2, which is almost impossible. Only maybe Giannis or Embiid or somebody can do that for the course of a game. Okay. So, Mo, those are the 3 shooters, those who create shots, those who make open shots, and then those guys who can't shoot. So now when I look at it, I go, okay, in today's game, in the way they play, which is totally different, Mo, than any other era I've ever seen. I think we all agree. This era, no one plays with this pace no one plays with like shoot 63s. I mean, Mo, we wouldn't shoot 63s for almost a whole season. These guys are shooting 63s in one game.
Yeah.
Okay. Steph Curry has to be, as far as creating shots, as far as shooting open shots,
making
and
open
then
shots.
Mo,
Not just shooting
makes
them,
open
making
shots,
the open shots.
making open shots. And then Mo, what he does exceptionally well, okay, which is an art that you don't see as much anymore. He does it without the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He's moving around using screens like they used to do in another era.
Yep.
So when you put the combination together of a guy that you're seeing doing, and Mo, he's a high volume shooter.
Yep.
This guy isn't like shooting like just 5 a game. This guy probably averages 5 or 6 threes made per game. Okay. Mm-hmm. And he's the number 1, number 2, and number 3 defensive assignment on every team. So this guy is just shooting at a clips where you're going, I haven't seen a guy make open shots, create shots, and he's doing it with the ball, without the ball. And you put all of that together, you go, wow, I haven't seen a guy that can do it this way. Now, I'm going to say, I think the second best shooter, or the second best in the way I look at it, right? Because those are my 3 criteria. The second one is Kevin Durant.
Mm-hmm. I hear it.
And the reason I'm saying with Kevin Durant is because the reason I don't have Kevin Durant 1 is because he has a distinctive advantage over every other player.
He's taller.
He can see the rim.
Yeah.
He can see the rim every time he shoots. Steph Curry is so incredible because, Mo, I being a smaller guy myself, I never saw the rim. Mm-hmm. Mo, every time I shot, I never saw the rim. I just knew where it was at. But Mo, I kept saying, God, if I could have really seen the rim, I probably could have shot 50%. And I'm sure Steph Curry is like,
yeah,
like Steph Curry is playing. Oh, listen, Steph Curry is doing this against a triple team, right? He's getting double teamed by 2 guys, and then the guy that's guarding the guy that set the screen is probably so he never sees the rim, and he's shooting like this. Mm-hmm. He's the Mo. I wasn't in the scouting report. My scouting report read like this: stay home with him.
Yeah,
this guy, Steph Curry's scouting report is guard him as soon as he parks his car in the parking lot. Okay. And so Steph Curry, and when you add all of this up, I'm going, okay. Kevin Durant can see the rim, and he is an incredible shot maker, though. I mean, Mo, the guy makes shots that are so difficult that now it's becoming like I watched him in the last game, Mo, you played great defense on him. That guy just still makes the shot, and he makes it. He does it with no effort, though. That's what's so deflating.
And the thing is, as well, he could pull up anytime he wants. He's just trying to get the most efficient shots or take the shots in the spots that he needs to get to.
Exactly. So I think he's the second best shooter. I really, because if he can create, he can do other things. Now, Dame is interesting to me because Dame just, he'll just move further and further back. I'm just waiting for Dame just to start shooting in the backcourt. Because I'm just with it. I mean, the guy did it in the All-Star game, and I'm going, okay, that just seems like a natural thing for him. He's an incredible shot maker. He's a clutch shot maker. He does it here. So I would say Dame is probably 3, but I don't think Devin Booker is far behind. Okay. I don't think he's far behind. Devin Booker is an incredible shot maker as far as shooting. Jason Tatum, I think he takes a lot of tough shots. But, if he had a better shot selection, I would put him up there because he's tall too. He can see the rim, and he makes some really tough shots. So I would say those are like my 5 guys. You know what I mean?
So run me through them in order from 5 to 1.
Steph Curry.
Yeah, 1 to 5.
Kevin Durant. Yeah. Steph Curry. Kevin Durant. Damian Lillard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Devin Booker.
Okay.
And then Jason Tatum.
Okay.
Because those guys. Now, Jason Tatum, he just takes tough shots. He just takes really tough shots to me. He takes tough shots. However, when I put the combination of creating a shot, because it's also a responsibility to be able to create an open shot and create space. That's a talent, Mo.
Yeah,
That's a talent. You know what I mean? That's a real talent.
Because it's not just 3-point shooting as well. The mid range is important when it comes to being a shooter, as Mikal Bridges is demonstrating in Brooklyn right now.
Yes, and you know, that's a real talent. So I don't discredit the ability to create a shot. You know, say what you want to. I think we talked about it yesterday. Kawhi Leonard could create space to get off a shot and make it, and he's very efficient at it. Okay, so those are my shooters. There's some, obviously, Luke Kennard, those guys I think are, you know, good shooters. There's a lot of really good shooters in the league over the years. But when you really, you know, the thing about the list that I respect, that all of those guys are primary scorers for their team.
Yep.
And they're shooting at a very, I think, a very efficient, you know, maybe Jason Tatum is probably the lowest.
Let me ask you this.
And all those guys.
You have Steph over KD because of the height advantage that KD has that makes it easier for him. Why is Dame not also over KD? What's the separating criteria there?
I don't, because like, there's a person that I don't have on the list. Klay Thompson has to be on every shooter's list. Like,
in his prime, yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. You said today. Klay has to be on the list, right? Just body of work. However, why is I can't just give the ball to to Dame, and he can just go get a shot like Durant. Like Durant is, you know, out of all the players that I've watched over the years, right? And all my years of watching players, right, since I was a kid here, Kevin Durant might be the only player I know that I've seen especially over this generation, that doesn't have to change his game one bit to play in any era. Like, he would be the same player in the 70s that he is today. He would have been the same player in the 80s, the 90s, early 2000s, whenever he came into the league. He would have been the same exact player. He is really I've been watching him a lot lately for whatever the reason. He's always been one of my favorite players. And, you know, George Gervin, when I was a kid, he said something, Mo, and it's just stuck with me. It's always stuck with me. He said, "Young fella," that's how he talked. Young fella. Young fella. I had a shot for every occasion. And he said it just as casual as I'm saying that to you right now. Bo, he said, "Young fella, I got a shot for every occasion." And he said it very calmly, just like that. And Mo, I've only seen one player that could score just about against any defense. But Kevin Durant has a shot
for every occasion.
For every occasion. No. Now, I seen a guy who can score against every defense from the perimeter, right? I didn't see Wilt, you know, Kareem. I didn't see in his, but I've seen enough to say, okay, on the perimeter, I saw a guy who could score. But this kid, Kevin Durant, he has a shot for every occasion. Look, you know what, Mo? You know why I'm in love with his game? It's because, Mo, he has the discipline not to shoot every time.
Yeah. Because if I was 7 foot tall and could shoot like Kevin Durant, no one's getting the ball on my team.
No, Mo, look, like Mo. Okay. All right. I want to be a fan here for just a second.
All right.
I want to be a fan for a second. Okay. I want to pretend right now I'm Kevin Durant.
Okay.
There's no way, Mo. There's no way, unless you have an incredible amount of self-discipline, that he shouldn't score over 70 points in a game.
Yep. Well, we spoke about this, and you said his lack of free throws at this stage of his career. But he should have had.
Mo, there's no way.
Probably a better way for it. He could have easily had 70 throughout his career.
Mo, there's no reason at some point he shouldn't have just scored 70 just because.
Well, we'll see he's next time he plays the Houston Rockets, he might just get it.
Mo, he's taking, you know what's funny? He's taking less shots now than he did in Brooklyn.
Mhm.
just because he's such a efficient student of the game. He's such a good basketball player. I just watch him now and I go, this guy really, really knows how to play. Mo, I think he's the only player, in my opinion, that wouldn't have to change his game not one bit. Mo, he wouldn't have to change his game one bit to play in any era, and he would have been the same player. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
like for instance, Giannis. Giannis would have to change his game a little bit to play in that era. He would have to change his game because he wouldn't just be running like dunking on people like he's doing now. He would have to change his game. LeBron would have to change his game. Do I think he would be efficient? Absolutely. Do I think he would be one of the best? Absolutely. But he would have to change his game. Kevin Durant, Mo, he wouldn't have to change nothing. He could shoot. You know, he could guard. He could play. He could play with other players. He could play in a system. He could play isolation. He could play fast, slow, however you want to do. Mo, he wouldn't change anything. I just think he is perhaps the only other player I could say this about, other than George Gervin, who was the first one I heard it from. Okay. He's got a shot for every occasion. He has a shot for every. Okay, Mo, some of the shots he made against Dallas, it was simply Mo. It was like art. It was like portrait.
And you knew they were going in when he took them. Even the tough ones, you knew they were going. But speaking of that Dallas and Phoenix game, Ryan77 says, with the Luka and Booker rivalry heating up, who was BJ Armstrong's biggest rival on the court and why? You had a few run-ins in your time, but who was your number one nemesis in the NBA?
Who did it? I learned, again, this is something that I learned as a professional. Like when I was in college, it was like, oh man, I'm going at such and such, man. He was talking all this. But I learned over 82 games that my biggest nemesis was myself.
Yeah.
Because I had as a pro, I had to be at my best every night. I tried to be. Now, the guys I enjoyed playing against the most, okay, I loved playing against Isaiah Thomas. I grew up watching him. When I was a kid, I wore number 11 as a kid. I changed my number because I didn't want him to know that he was my favorite player. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Playing against Magic Johnson, the guy because he was so physical as a guard, was John Stockton. I love playing against Tim Hardaway, Kevin Johnson. One of the craftiest players ever was Mark Price here. And there were so many guards, Mookie Blaylock, Pooh Richardson, all of these guards that were, it was so many great players.
Who was it on the Suns that I saw a game where you just threw them off the court? Who was the player?
I think it was Kevin Johnson. I don't know. Eddie Johnson or somebody. I don't know. Mo, you had somebody running. Like if you guys haven't seen
that, check that out on YouTube because that was pretty funny.
I mean, you had run-ins all the time. I mean, I love. There was one of the most physical guards was this. He's not a young man anymore. None of us are young anymore. Was Derek Harper. He was a bigger guard. Played for the Knicks. Played here. One of the guards, Mo, who had my number. Okay, if you want to hear something, had my number, right? I mean, Mo, every time this guy saw me, he was going to hit me for 20.
Oh, we heard
his name was Steve. His name was Steve Coulter.
We know this
Coulter. If Steve, if you're listening right now, if he saw me right now, he would hit me for 20. And Mo, that's just what it. Okay.
All right. Shout out to Steve.
Shout out to Steve Coulter. But Mo, Michael Adams. Remember Michael Adams? That played. One of the guys who Mo I really had to get my game ready for was Muggsy Bogues. He was a major problem. So Mo, I had to learn that every single night there was going to be a different challenge. Now that I'm thinking about it, one of my favorite players to play against, was Rod Strickland.
Okay. Tell us why.
Why? Because I knew Rod was not going to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't going to shoot, and I knew he was going to drive, and he still was going to find a way to drive and get by me.
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't alone. and I wasn't alone. It's not like, okay, you have the guard like Joe Dumars, for instance, and you know the guys can shoot, and you just, you got to take away something. I knew he was going to drive.
Mm-hmm.
The team knew he was going to drive. And I was standing there at the free throw line waiting for him to drive. And the guy was so clever, he was still going to figure out how to get by you. Rod, was it Terry Porter? I mean, right, there were so many really, Doc Rivers, Spud Webb. I mean, every night, Mo, like, so, I every night presented a different challenge. But my favorite player growing up as a kid was, if you're saying like, who did I want to play against? Like, I measured myself against Isaiah, and I still consider him. As far as a little guy, 6 feet and under, he's the best. I mean, he's the best at what he did with those Detroit Piston teams. And that was my measure. That was all of our measurements. We all measured ourselves against the very best. So as far as a little guard, I remember the first time I played against Allen Iverson. I told you that story, Mo. I never saw a guy that fast.
Mm-hmm.
I never. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So every night presented a different challenge, and there were so many challenges, Mo, in this league. Maurice Cheeks and all of these guys. I can remember playing against the late Dennis Johnson with the Boston Celtics,
mm-hmm.
and Danny Ainge in the backcourt.
DJ, yep.
Oh, and Mo, like you played against Hall of Famers. You know what I mean, Mo? Like, so I would love to tell you that it was just one guy, but every night, Mo, somebody was going to cook you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Sidney Moncrief, for instance. Like, okay, look, these are Hall of Fame. I'm just throwing out Hall of Famers. And I know I'm missing a lot of giver. All right, Mo, I'm going to tell you one of the guys, Mo, who to me, we need to show some love to.
All right.
Is Abdul Rauf.
Facts. We need to get him on the show.
Now, Mo.
Mahmoud Abdul Rauf. Go check his highlights if you guys want to watch.
And I'm saying this out of just based on what I've seen. Like we talk about Steph Curry now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you something. Mohammed Abdul Rauf, Mo, he might have been the first Steph Curry before Steph Curry.
Phil Jackson said the same thing.
Mo, he might have been. Mo, I'm telling you, he had a year or two in there, Mo, where I had to guard him, and Mo,
shifty.
Like there aren't a lot of times where you can say I can take away something. Mo, you couldn't guard anybody, but you could take away something.
Mm-hmm.
Mo, he could shoot before we really knew what shooting really. Like that off the dribble.
Yep. He might have been Steph Curry. Fly.
Oh, Mo, when I'm telling you, he had a handle. He had a pull-up game, screen roll. He could play isolation, and Mo, he was efficient. This man could really shoot. Now, his story. If you get a chance, man,
let's get him on the show, and he's going to tell his story. Yeah, let's get him on the show.
Tell the story.
We'll leave you guys.
But I'm going to tell you, but these guys, all of these guys, Mo, were so good. I remember Stephon Marbury came in the league. Terrell Brandon. These are like exceptional players. So I really wish I could tell you, but I'm going to tell you, Abdul Rauf, hey, Mo, I saw that one up here. I saw that one firsthand. And let me tell you something. Mo. If anybody told you they stopped my Abdul Rauf,
they're lying. They're lying. It was just you just got to hope for an off night.
Mo. No. And I'm telling you, he might have been the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how we talking about Steph right now? He might have been the first one, Mo.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like he might have gave us a glimpse of what could be.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm gonna tell you, he was doing that, Mo, like in the early 90s before we really knew what was going on.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
And he was exceptional. He was an exceptional shooter.
Special.
Man, I'm sorry to go on, but you brought all these names up, man. You brought all these names up.
It's all love. It's all love. We got to pay homage to the OGs here. But appreciate all the guys who sent in questions today. Make sure that you get into the Discord server so that you can have your questions answered here on the show. Make sure you stay locked in, stay subscribed, stay sharing with your friends, leaving reviews, all that good stuff, because we'll be back tomorrow with more from the Hoop Genius podcast. So make sure you do what Mahmoud Abdul Rauf did and get buckets.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.